everyone. It is April 6th now. It's the day before this video is going up because I just haven't had a chance to film it, but I'm finally reviewing all of the books that I read during the first quarter of 2021. I guess disclaimer or fair warning, like, I'm not the best reviewer. I tend to just like a lot of things recently. I feel like I'm able to be a little more critical on how much I liked it. So if I give them any sort of rating, it's going to be based on this system. So if it's a 5-star, it means I loved it, I want to read it again, and I must have it. That's my 5 stars. If it is a 4-star, I enjoyed it. I probably won't read it again, but I enjoyed it for what it was. If it's given to me, awesome. I'm not gonna go on my way and buy it though. 3-star it was good, but I don't need it. Like, it's even less of like it was good enough. It didn't pull me or like have any significance. It didn't affect me as much. So it was very just like, it was good. 2-star, thankfully I have not had like any 2 or 1 stars. But a 2-star is like, I probably didn't enjoy this because it's not for me. There was a lot of things that I was just like, and I finished it, but I will not recommend it. 1 stars, my guess is I don't finish these books. They have to be bad, and it would be on multiple levels of either it was written poorly or it's total trash. But I haven't read any this quarter. Thankfully, I enjoyed all the books I read this quarter. And right here, this is the stack of the ones that I own. There's actually one more. It's The Hobbit, but it's downstairs. I don't want to go grab it. But here's the full list, just this side of it. These are the books, the 23 books that I read during quarter 1. A lot of them I did do as audiobooks if they were available because I was working on my own book, or if I was working on the Ashport trailer, I listened to an audiobook while I drew things. So I needed to make up time somewhere, which I wasn't in a rush at all. Like, there was 24, 25 books on my TBR this year, and I read 23, but they're not all from my TBR. And I keep looking over here at the screen, but you guys are right there, so I'll try to remember where you're at. So without further ado, let's jump into these books. I don't know if you can hear Atreyu. And I think most of them are sort of in order. First off, I'm gonna pull from the top here because I need to clean this side off.
We have Sorcery of Thorns, which I do own a copy of.
Beautiful cover. Look at that. I love this cover. It's shiny and it's gilded, and this was a Christmas gift from my brother-in-law, as well as a different book, but this is the winning book. Like, I wanted to read it because I guess it's advertised as a standalone fantasy. I'm really curious because all the fantasies that I read are pretty much series. It's kind of interesting to see someone take a fantastical world and just make one book out of it, because in my own writing, I have the duology I'm working on now. There is a 3+ book, not necessarily prequel, but other part of the storyline. And there are a few that I would like to do as standalones, but you don't really see standalones too much. So it was kind of nice to see how it was done here. I know there's a lot of books about girls in libraries, but this was awesome because the special books are called grimoires, and they're kind of evil. They're seen as evil, I guess. Also, if you watch any of the Studio Ghibli movies, you're gonna feel it in here. You can picture it. It's just, the world is very vivid. And then the grimoires kind of give you that that black monstery feel from Studio Ghibli. And so having the books be more part of the story was really interesting. And the romance storyline as well Like, if I'm going directly, like, with the romance that she ended up with, it was good, but, like, kind of it wasn't really a love triangle, but there's, the guy that helps her has a servant who is basically a demon. He's my favorite. Silas is my favorite. So if you've read this book, Silas, yes. It was all the things that I would like in a fantasy book that I don't write. It's all the things that I don't write, but it's like, this is if this was a show, this is what I would watch. 5 stars, because I have it, and I must keep it, and I will read it again probably.
Yeah. I'm gonna pull down the next two because they are sort of a series together.
The next 2 that I read, these were also physical reads, because they do not, like Sorcery of Thorns, I did listen to the audiobook, and it was great. But the next 2 were physical reads, and this is the Bell Gareth. Oh god, I'm terrible at this. The Bell Gareth and Pulgera. These 2 chunky monkeys right here. Chunky monkeys. Now it's the mass paperback print, which is why it's so small, but so much. But it's already a long story on its own. Like, each of these was over 700. First of all, 5-star reads, yes. I feel like Pulgera's might have been closer to a 4, only because they go Bell Gareth first, and then Pulgera, because they follow the Malorian and the Belgariad series, which I read last year. Bell Gareth's story tells from essentially the beginning of his time, because he's been a sorcerer living for, I think, 7,000 years. And so you see him before he becomes the apprentice to the god Aldor and learns the will and the word, which is their, like, magic system. I felt like Bell Gareth's story was more intriguing than most of Pulgera's, because she had a lot of the politics on her side. And it was interesting to see, like, everything that went on behind the scenes, because they do overlap in the last, like, 3,000 years or something. Like, it was just like her pull on the politics was, you know, they don't listen to women in court, but this is how I'm gonna make them do the smart thing so they don't screw things up. So it was like, it was good. It just, I knew the part that I wanted to get to, and it's because it's alluded to that she had, like, a prior romance. And actually it came up in Bell Gareth first, that she had a romantic moment, and because of Pulgera's character, you're like, oh my gosh, like, I hope it was good. But then, like, things changed, so like, I know it didn't work out, but I wanted to know, and it took forever to get there, and it was so short. Granted, it's not a romance. I didn't read it for the romance. I read it because the story and the world is phenomenal. I believe David Eddings has been compared to Tolkien in ways where it's just like he has the layers and layers and layers of history and culture built into his world. This is how epic fantasies are supposed to be written. Like, you're supposed to have, if it's a different world, it's got to be fully developed, and that's the reason why I love it. Definitely a 5-star for Bell Gareth. Pulgera's like 4.5, because I'm keeping it, like, yes. But if I reread it, I'll probably skip a lot of the politic parts. So, on to the next set here, which is actually 3 books in a series.
Oh shoot. Oh no.
So the next book, it's not the entire series, but I read books 1 and 2, and it is books 3, 4, and 5 of Percy Jackson. And I'm sorry if my handwriting is bad on these, like, I just wrote it to have a record of it. These I listened to as an audiobook, which definitely I enjoyed the audiobooks because of the cast using different, was it just one narrator? It was narrated very well. I did enjoy that. However, knowing that Percy Jackson is a middle grade, like, if I read it when I was younger, I feel like I would have enjoyed it more and, like, been, like, the biggest fan ever, because I love Greek mythology, Roman mythology, So that's why I really wanted to read the stories, because I read the first one last year, tried to rewatch the movie, and I couldn't. And I was like, A, the characters aren't this old. Stop. But I finished the series in January, and my favorite part was the final twist at the end of book 5. So like the final twist. I'm not much for stories set in like the contemporary world, like bringing up McDonald's or something. I was just kind of, it like, it took me out of the story, even though that's where the story is set. Is that weird? I just don't really care about reading about things that reference too much things in this world. Like, that's just me. It doesn't quite do it to have contemporary references, if that's what we're gonna call it. Again, sorry, I'm a bad reviewer. So for Percy Jackson, it was a 3. Because while I did enjoy the story, a lot of it I felt was, I mean, not to say because it was a middle grade, but it was, like, I could see where it was going, except for the final twist at the end. I did like that. That was it. But I don't need these books. I really wanted them because their covers are awesome. But then I realized that Rick Riordan, if that's how you say his name, does all his covers, like, similarly. And I was just like, oh, well, you took the fancy out of it. Overall, great story. I would have enjoyed it more if I was younger or into more contemporary stuff. So it was kind of just not quite my genre. So I'm just giving it a 3. On to the next one. Oh, it's on the bottom.
So,
Unbirthday. So this was the only Twisted Tale that I got to read during the first quarter. I had already finished 6 of them last year, I believe. Yes. So this was the only one I hadn't read, but I listened to it as an audiobook first because I didn't have the physical copy at the time, but it was on my TBR, and like I'm like, I want to read all of these. And it was the only one of the 4 that I hadn't read that had the audiobook, so I listened to this one and I loved it. So it's obviously the Alice in Wonderland retelling Twisted Tale version, which I guess is also, like, each of these are standalone fantasies, but it's kind of different because we already have the reference of the original Disney movies. So you don't have to build up as much, I guess. I didn't know what to expect going into it because Alice in Wonderland's not like one of my top favorite Disney movies or even like stories, I guess, but this was good. So basically, without trying to spoil it, Alice hasn't been, or she came back from Wonderland like 10 years ago, but she still has memories of it, and everybody kind of thinks she's like, no, you're a little silly, crazy girl, and she's trying to recapture it and find out how to go back, and when she eventually does, the Queen of Hearts has basically taken over and is like, she's stealing toys, which is a big thing, but like she be murdering people up in this book. Like, it got dark. Like, I know it's a Twisted Tale, but it got dark. And it was really cool to see how each like major character in Wonderland, like the Mad Hatter, the Cheshire Cat especially, had a, not necessarily a double, but an equivalent in the actual world that Alice got to like recognize, and she started putting pieces together. The story in Wonderland itself, you know, it's Wonderland. Like, it kind of goes all over the place, but it follows really, really well. Like, I didn't get lost or confused at all. And then she does spend a good amount of time in, you know, reality in England, and even that storyline is developed where it's not just like, oh, here I am, I need to go back. It's like, I need to fix some things here too. So it's great on both sides of the looking glass, as it were, and I'm glad the Cheshire Cat is who's who they were. I sensed it early on, and then it didn't happen for the longest time, and then they were, and that was like, yes, he's the Cheshire Cat. So now apparently the Cheshire Cat's my favorite. 5 stars. 5. I will do a specific Twisted Tales review after I finish. I have 3 more physical copies that I own, and then Go the Distance, which is the Hercules one, comes out this month, actually, at the end of this month. So that's kind of like gonna be my gift to myself once I finish reading the last 3 I have to read, and then I'm gonna review them all. It's gonna be great. I love these. I love Disney. Moving on. Moving on. Now we have a duology.
Actually, there are 2 duologies in quarter 1. I'm actually happy about that on the inside. Since I'm writing a duology, like I'm trying to make more of an effort to read them and just see how they laid out the story overall. So I feel like I'm getting a better grasp on it, because usually I just write like all my graphic novels were multi-book series where I didn't really plan ahead, so I just kept going like, oh, yep, I gotta do this, but I'm planning more now, I promise.
These were the last 2 that I read in January, and this is a duology, oopsie, by, I'm sorry, you can't read that. I'm sorry, I can't read that. Duology by probably my favorite author ever, Tamora Pierce. And it is the Trickster's Choice and Trickster's Queen duology. I bought these books like literally a year ago, but I hadn't got to reading them until now. And I wasn't exactly sure if I was going to like it. I was like, I know it's Tamora Pierce, so I have to like it. But when I finally read the synopsis and who it's about, it is the daughter of Alana, who is the main character in the Lioness Rampant Song of the Lioness Quartet, which is my favorite quartet from Tamora Pierce. And when I read these as a child person, adolescent, whatever you want to call it, I didn't quite link that the stories were in the same world as much. Like, I think I noticed it was the same kingdom, but I wasn't aware of the timeline. Anywho, so these are about Alana's daughter. So since I read the Lioness Quartet last year, I was like, well, I gotta read about her daughter, because I assumed it came next, and it don't. It's obviously like 20 years later or something, so I skipped over my 2 other quartets, but I'm reading them. It's fine. Don't worry about it. What I'm trying to say is I felt like the writing style was a little more mature. I did listen to them as audiobooks because I was neck deep in the animation and I needed to listen to something, but I needed to also make progress with my books. Again, like, I'm not a romance reader, but if it appears in fantasy and it's done well, it's usually one of the highlights, and it was definitely a highlight in this duology. Like, the way that she writes it, it's not too much. It builds up naturally. It's a very good slow burn, and then it's like sweet. Like, when it pops up, you're like, oh yes. She also had a lot of politics in this one too, and it was because she went to a different kingdom sort of as a spy. There was a lot of things going on which were definitely interesting, but I couldn't tell you, like, it didn't stick in my brain. It was there while in the story, but it didn't. I just know it was there. Whereas, like, the romance pairing in here is in my heart. I guess politics really doesn't do it for me, at least to this extent, because it was a lot more of that story development rather than where I feel like the other characters were more active in her other series. Maybe Allie, who's the main character in this duology, she, because of her position, she wasn't able to be an actor, so it wasn't a flaw on this, like, the character's part at all, but it was just the setting that she was in. So 4.5, 5 stars, you know, something like that, because I love them. I'll reread them for certain reasons, but it did, I was pulled out a couple times just because I didn't care as much about the politics, where I'm like, you gotta go do something, go do the things. But they also had, like, cute little flying horses, so there's that too. The next bunch is a bunch. The next bunch is a bunch. The next ones are lots of audiobooks, so I don't have the physical copies, but I'll put a picture up here. So
The first audiobook, well, I mean, not the first audiobook, but
February. The first book in February was an audiobook called Mossflower. Mossflower, can you see it? There you go. It's part of the Redwall series by Brian Jacques. This series was also recommended to me by my husband from, like, when he was a kid, and I was like, okay, it's on the Libby app, it's free, I'll check it out. So I completed Redwall the single book last year, and I really, really liked it. All the characters are like little forest creatures, but it's kind of like a medieval fantasy. So it's kind of two things that I love. And I really enjoyed Redwall, but there's like 21, 22 books in the whole series. And I was like, okay, I'll just listen to all the audiobooks, because they're not really the quickest thing, which is, I feel like they should be quicker because they are like, I think they're kids, or not kids, but maybe middle grade-ish. Initially, I didn't quite get into the Mossflower story as much because I wasn't sure where it took place. And then I looked it up, and the books were not released in the chronological storyline order, in chronological order. Yeah. Mossflower was actually like, here's Redwall. It was way down here in the past, and I thought we were here. I haven't quite decided if I want to do them chronologically, just so my brain can track it easier, or if I go by release date. But my library, aka Libby app, has all but 4. And it's not like the 4 last ones. It's like 4 of them in the middle. Like 9, 11, 12, 13. It doesn't have those, and making it difficult, guys. While I'm enjoying the story and it like hits a bunch of points, it doesn't sink into the heart as often. So for now, it's a 4-star. I'm definitely enjoying it. I'm going to listen to the rest of them. Whether or not that it gets to 5-star level and I have to have it, we'll see. We'll see.
Alright. This next book, I don't know how much I can talk about it because it was a beta read, but it counts. It's on my list, so it counts.
And it is the... There we go. The 4th book in the Ashport Archives series by Stephanie Gillis, aka Cordy, aka like my best YouTube friend. So I beta read the 4th book before she was even done with edits, and I hope I helped her kind of pick out a few things. But all of that aside, like as the story, because I have 1, 2, and 3, and I reread them last year in anticipation for reading this one. Book 4 is intense. And I'm also going to like review her books separately as well, because I want to do like indie specific reviews, and this is one of them, so I'm not going to go too much into it here. Urban fantasy that really has a lot of like found family elements, so there's a huge cast of main characters, not just of like other characters, but there's a lot. Like there's 8 main characters in the first book, and then you add more people, so it could be like closer to a dozen or so. And they all have a story arc. If I was writing it, I don't know how I would have kept track. I would have definitely lost some people, but everybody's story was finished. It all came to a very good close. The struggle with the main character and the powers that she gains, I really appreciated it. So I'm not going to say any more about Ashport right now, because I will review that in a separate video as well. I'm not going to give it a star yet, because I haven't seen the final edits. So if certain things have been fixed, I'm not going to base it off a draft. So you can understand, Q. I'm not going to do that to you. But I did enjoy it enough that the draft that I read, I would give 4 stars. So, but it was good. And I need it printed for my collection. Just letting you know what I'm waiting for.
The next one was a trilogy, so we can talk about them all together, even though my favorite was the first book. I was gonna be honest.
So let me preface this with saying I have not always been a Star Wars fan. Always a Disney fan, for sure. But I didn't really get into Star Wars until my husband and I met, because he was a huge nerd of it. And we watched Clone Wars and Rebels. And I think part of the reason why, I think there's 2 reasons. A, because it was animated and that kind of just clicks with me more. But also because in both Clone Wars and Rebels, you get more of the story than you got in the movies. And specifically in Star Wars Rebels, you are introduced to Thrawn, who is not quite a villain, but he's you know, not on their side, but he's phenomenal because he's like the only alien race on or in the Empire. I read via audiobook the latest Thrawn Trilogy, or actually it's not the latest, I think there's a duology after it. But anyway, even though I was told to start at a different place in the timeline of all the Star Wars books, I was like, I just want to read about Thrawn. So I did. Immediately in the audiobook, the narrator sounds like him. So again, if you don't know who he is, it doesn't matter to you, but yes, Thrawn's voice actor was on point. And then it was not set while he was part of the Empire. It was started before that, and he met, you know, he was kind of paired up with Eli as an interpreter because only he could speak the Chiss language. And the first book for me was fantastic. I loved kind of their energy together, as well as seeing how Thrawn rose up in power. In the second book, he pairs up with Darth Vader, actually. So that one was cool because it juxtaposed him with Darth Vader on a mission, going to the same world that he went to that he met Anakin on. So he got it, yeah. So that was really interesting, actually. I still love the first book though, because Eli is precious. And then the third book, it kind of all came back together because Eli was off on a mission, but in the third book came back and like they were working together again to help the Chiss and everything. I guess what they had to do in the third book wasn't quite as interesting to me, but the first and the second book were really, really good. If you're into Star Wars, if you're into Thrawn, they're definitely great, and I do recommend the audiobook because you'll be like, yes, it sounds like Thrawn. At least the first two books I would give 4 stars, but it's like, if I get the 2, then I'm getting the 3. So the third book I was kind of like, not really. I don't know if it was just the mood that I was when I was in when I read it, but I was kind of like, third book wasn't doing it for me. First and second book were, I would greatly accept them as a gift, but I don't, until they get cheaper, I'm not going to go out of my way to buy them. Ooh, this video is long. I'm just talking, and my mouth is so tired. But we're almost there, guys. We're almost there. We just got these little bits. So, without further ado, this book is also a self-published indie author. The book is oh man, you can't read that at all. The Wilderness by Ben Reeves. And I was lucky enough to find his channel relatively soon to his release. And I just kind of liked the way that he was talking about things. And when his book came out, you know, it was a novella. He had it on offer for 99 cents like release week. And I was like, well, I really want, you know, I want to support him. And I also want to like start reviewing indie books to kind of learn for myself. So I got it while it was 99 cents. And it's so good. I just wish it was longer. That's my first review for you, sir. And I know you're writing novellas intentionally and everything, and it's a series, but I need more. I just need more. And I would like to do a separate review for that as well, just so it's out there and it's kind of me more analyzing it a little bit more as an author myself. But this one actually, so I got the ebook for 99 cents, which actually was nice because it was the reason why I rediscovered I had a Kindle. And so chaos is coming later with that. But for now, I was able to read his book, and I read it in a day, obviously because it was, you know, shorter, but it was very, very it was an easy read, but it wasn't childish. It was, there's definitely hints of Wonderland in there, but also Mirror Mask, so it's a very surreal alternate world that the character's in. And just, I feel like the characters were so real, the main characters, that, like, I wasn't asking myself, well, why is he like this or why is she like this? It was, it was very well written. Again, I will review this in more detail in a video soon to come, but the only thing I didn't like was the cover design, because I looked at it and I thought it was like some trippy, like, I don't know, because it's you see it here, it's kind of that, like, I don't even know how to explain it, sort of drug-induced sort of vision, and so that kind of, that's why I didn't quite want to read it at first, but then he mentioned the synopsis and I'm like, oh, that actually sounds more interesting. So the cover design's not my favorite. Is it enough to knock it down to a 4-star? No. But like, because the imagery in the book and where they go and what they do, like, that could have made an awesome cover. Just so you know, Ben. But definitely at least 4.5 stars. Yeah, I'm gonna get 4.5 stars. Moving on, we have a not quite classic, but old enough to be old. I read The Hobbit, and I don't know what I was doing, thinking, like, because I had read it in, I think in some grade in school we had to read it, but I feel like I was young enough and the book was either like an abridged version or something. Like, it seemed like it was child friendly, or at least like adolescent, like younger, like 6th grade. I want to say 6th grade. This book was not. Like, it was just so wordy and I struggled. And I still have to read the like Lord of the Rings trilogy this year. Thankfully not next, but this year. And I'm not looking forward to it. Like, I appreciate the world building, but I think just the way that it was presented, especially since, like, I'm, in my own writing, I'm like, don't info dump here. Don't just go off script or like do things so people can know. So he does that a lot, which, you can write the way you want when he wrote stuff. So it was enjoyable to know the things, but it was like, I don't want to know this right now. Like, let's move the story along. So maybe if it was an abridged version that I read when I was younger, it cut all those out. But I also couldn't remember anything past the Eagles, which is early on. So, I don't know. A 3-star. I mean, we have it. I'm not gonna get rid of it, but I'm not gonna read it again. Like, it was just hard for me to read and like thoroughly enjoy, because I kept feeling like I was taken out of the story with all the extra information. I mean, I liked the story well enough, but it was just a harder read, and I was like, I don't have much to say about it. I'm sorry.
Moving on. Oh, actually, I forgot about this book for a minute. By chance, I just wanted like a quick audiobook to go through, and my neighbor and I were talking about books, and somehow we got on the topic of Indian in the Cupboard.
So I actually listened to the audiobook for Indian in the Cupboard, which was like 4 hours. It's a middle grade, but it was so good. Like, it makes me want to rewatch the movie and see how well it lined up, because I feel like it lined up pretty well. It's actually a 5-book series, which I didn't know, but only the 2 books are available on Libby, so I'm like at a crossroads. Without saying too much, because I think most people know the story of Indian in the Cupboard. If not, a boy gets a like magic little chest cupboard that can turn his toys real, and so he makes an Indian, like a little Indian figure real. And I definitely, like, I love the movie. It's right here. It's actually right there. Yeah, I've loved it since childhood, so I think I have that attachment to it as well. I'm not going to, it's not a 5-star where I need the books and I'm going to reread them. It's maybe a 3.5, 4-star, because if somebody gives me the books, or like I find them super cheap altogether, I will get them, because I do want to see the story. Like, just the writing style was fantastic, and it was very easy to listen to, so I assume it's easy to read, and they're short. So I thoroughly enjoyed the story. Like, yeah, no, you know what, 4-star, solid 4-star. I definitely enjoyed it. So that was just a little quick one right there. Oh god, we're almost there because this is a quartet and a duology.
And there's too many of these, I'm not even going to hold them up for you, I'm just going to hold the books up. We're into March, just for the record. Name and cover was March. And I also got, ooh, upside down. Nope, that's upside down. Okay, I don't, it's backward. That's right, it's backward when I'm looking at it.
So I also was able to finish the Immortals Quartet. I don't have anything on the side here. Immortals Quartet with these 4 fantastic books. So I really wish I read these when I was younger because I loved them. Like, the main character has wild magic, which gives her a connection to animals, and it's awesome. And like, that's like me when I was younger. Still sort of me now, but like, if there's like an animal human, I was gonna say relationship, but that doesn't sound right. If there's like that sort of kinship or like ability to connect with them and communicate, and I'm like, yes. But I listened to these as audiobooks because with my work schedule, I just didn't have enough time to do my things and read. Especially because the physical books I had, the last 2 I had to do as physical books, they did not have audiobooks in my Libby app, but these did. They were great. It was the full cast family, so you know they had all the great voices for it. The story, oh my gosh. So, like I said, Tamora Pierce is fantastic at the slow burn. Okay, so I mentioned in Trickster's Choice, Trickster's Queen, there's a lot of politics, and it kind of dragged down the story a bit for me. Like, I feel like we got similar, maybe a little bit less, but it was spaced throughout 4 books. So it was much easier to like take in, but there was also a lot more action. There was, you know, a lot more character relationship building, as well as just there's the animal relationships. That was great. You got your slow burn romance, so if you're a fan of that, definitely. Their age difference is a bit wider than most people nowadays are okay with, but you have to think of like it's set in a different world, but also like the medieval culture where it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, guys, and it's worth it. It's so good. So yes, 5 star, because I can't give more, but I love this so much. So much. We're almost there. I'm sorry, like the reviews have been getting shorter because so many books. But the last 2.
I can clear my board. Yay! I'm not even going to get to tell you guys what's on my TBR left over. This is already like an hour. Well, it's not quite an hour, but it's way too close. And I'm not going to stop wasting time. So these 2 are
Rise of Kyoshi and the Shadow of Kyoshi duology by F.C. Yee. Yes, 5 stars. I'll just let you know that right away. The first book was a very, very slow start. I'm just going to warn you about that. Because my husband read them first, and he, like, blew through them. And when I started, I was like, how did you read this so quickly? Like, it was... The first several chapters were really kind of building up the characters and, I guess, reintroducing the Avatar world. So it just was kind of slow. And then when it got to the action, like, from the first point of action through the rest of it, it really, really picked up, and it was, like... The pacing was fantastic. It was just the beginning that I was like, why am I struggling? I hope that they turn this into an animation. I don't care about live action stuff. Just give me an animation. Because, you know, even though I'm familiar with the Avatar Last Airbender universe, I would have loved to see, like, when they bring up the stances or, like the action sequences would be amazing. And my storage is running low, so I really got to wrap this up. So I would love to have seen this visually, but it was great to read this as a duology because, like I said, I've said it like 4 times now. I'm writing a duology, and the circle of completion in these 2, I felt it more in this than the Trickster duology because there was a lot of other things in there that kind of was like, oh, there's so much stuff, but this, like, stuff that happens in the first book comes back in the second book, and you're like, that was a great turnaround wrap up. Yes, I appreciate it. So this is my kind of goal for duology stuff. So, and that was these were the last 2 books that I was able to complete during Q1 of 2021. So now my done side is clear. I've already started 3 books for in progress. And then we have the remainder over here, which is the remainder of my TBR, all based on books that I have on shelves that I need to read or that like I know I'm buying. So I was gonna get to it, but I didn't realize this video was gonna be so long. My storage is low, like I can't talk anymore. So I'm just gonna end the video here. Hope you guys enjoyed the reviews. I'll try to do better. And there will be a few more specific reviews coming up as well. So if you're interested in these things, definitely subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button, comment below if you read any of these books or you have a different opinion. I like to discuss things like that. It's kind of fun. And then if you're on any other social medias, all of my links are down in the description, so you can follow me there. The thing is filling up, so I'm gonna go. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.